Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. This time we're taking a look at the wild world of investing.
Oh yeah, definitely wild.
We've got Texticale here. It's going to be our guide, and man, it does not disappoint. I mean, it is packed with insights about how to make sense of investing when everything's changing so fast.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating read.
Absolutely. And by the time we're done with this deep dive, you'll walk away with some serious knowledge about the trends, the strategies, the stuff you need to really think about whether you're already an investor or just starting out.
Absolutely.
So Texticale, right off the bat, one of the things I found super interesting was how much emphasis they put on the role of U.S. economic policies, like how they can seriously impact entire sectors. I mean, we always talk about the stock market, but this is bigger than that, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's about understanding like the ripple effect of these decisions. How one policy change in one area can create this whole chain reaction across the entire economy.
Totally.
And Texically dives into specific examples too, like they talk about the pharmaceutical industry
Yeah.
and how if we see another wave of deregulation,
Mm-hmm.
it could be a boom for smaller biotech companies. Less red tape means they can get treatments to market faster. And for investors, well, that's a potential gold mine.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But they also point out that deregulation's not always the answer,
Oh,
right?
for sure, for sure.
Like they highlight how protectionist policies,
Right.
while maybe good intention, they can
Mhm.
actually hurt industry that depend on like global supply chains.
Absolutely. And they've got this really interesting case study about a U.S. furniture manufacturer
Okay.
that got absolutely slammed by tariffs on imported lumber.
Ooh,
I mean, their costs just exploded, and they ended up losing market share to overseas competitors who could source materials more cheaply, and really shows you how policies, even those meant to help domestic industries, can sometimes backfire, you know?
totally. It makes you wonder, with all the uncertainty in the world, like how can you even try to figure out what's coming next?
Yeah, it's tough, but Texticale argues that one of the keys is to look past those day-to-day headlines and instead focus on the underlying trends. And one trend that they're really convinced will have a huge impact on investing, AI, artificial intelligence.
AI, I mean, it's everywhere these days, but honestly, sometimes it feels like it's just a buzzword. How is AI actually changing investing?
Texticale gets really specific about this, actually. They talk about algorithmic trading, which uses AI to basically make trades at like lightning speed, analyze huge sets of data to find patterns, and then try to predict what the market's going to do next. It's like taking the emotion out of investing and replacing it with pure data.
So it's like having a supercomputer as your financial advisor.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty amazing and maybe a little bit scary too.
It can be, yeah. But the point is not to be afraid of AI. It's to understand how it works and then how you can use it to your advantage. Texticale actually recommends looking for companies that are not just using AI, but developing it.
Hmm.
They believe those companies will be the ones that really benefit in the long run.
So maybe instead of trying to pick stocks, we should be looking at the companies that are like making the tools of the future.
Exactly. And that actually connects really well with another point Texticale makes, diversification.
Okay, diversification. It's like investing 101, right?
Yeah, it is
But still super important, even with all the changes happening with AI and everything.
more important than ever, actually. Texticale argues that those old school diversification strategies, they might not cut it anymore. They say we need to look beyond the traditional stuff like stocks and bonds and think about things like real estate, commodities even.
Wait, are you going to say crypto?
I am going to say crypto.
Because they do talk about it, don't they?
Oh, they do. And they make some seriously thought-provoking points about how cryptocurrencies could be an alternative to traditional currencies, especially when things are economically uncertain.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the one hand, people are saying crypto's the future of finance, and then you have others saying it's a bubble about to boost.
Yeah, you've got both sides, definitely. Texicole acknowledges both sides of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
But they say don't write crypto off entirely. They point out that it could be a hedge against inflation, and the fact that more and more big institutions are investing in it kind of suggests it's becoming more legitimate.
It's a lot to take in, that's for sure. And we're just scratching the surface of what Texticole has to say. We've talked government policies, AI on the rise, the importance of diversification, and of course, crypto, all its potential and its uncertainty. But we're not done yet.
It really is. I mean, there's a lot to think about, but that's just what it's like investing these days. Everything's moving so fast.
Yeah.
And actually, that's one of the things Texticole really dives into, this whole idea of uncertainty and how to deal with it as an investor.
Yeah, that's what really got me thinking. Like, okay, trends are one thing, predictions are great, but how do you use all that? How do you actually make decisions when it feels that the future's a total question mark?
Right. And one of the things Texticale suggests is, well, they talk about safe haven assets.
Safe havens, like stashing cash under your mattress, investing in a bunker.
Maybe not that extreme, but Texticale uses this interesting analogy. They talk about, like, back in Roman times,
Okay.
even then, when things were chaotic, politically, economically, people turned to gold. It was a way to hold on to value, something tangible that held up over time.
So like the original diversification, huh? Not putting all your eggs in one basket, or, well, one currency, one government, even.
Exactly. And Texticole makes the case that this idea is still relevant today. Like, they point out that even now, central banks are holding on to a ton of gold. It's like, even in the digital age, gold has this safe haven status.
That's kind of wild. But, okay, gold, that's one. They also mentioned lithium, right? What makes that a safe haven now?
Well, lithium, essential for batteries. And with the whole world moving towards electric vehicles,
Right.
demand for lithium, it's only going up.
Oh, yeah.
Texticole actually predicts it could become the new gold.
Wow.
Countries are going to be, like, scrambling to secure their lithium supplies.
It's like Risk, the board game, but instead of armies, we're fighting over battery parts.
Right.
Okay, but speaking of risk, we got to circle back to crypto for a sec. We talked about the potential upside, but Text to Calais doesn't sugarcoat the risks either.
No, they definitely don't. They're very realistic about how volatile crypto is, and the potential for scams and regulation coming down hard.
So not exactly for the risk averse then. Text to Calais seems to be saying, if you're going to get into crypto, got to have a strong stomach, do your research.
Oh, absolutely. They even recommend treating it as like a separate part of your portfolio. The high-risk section, don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Right.
And they really emphasize staying up to date on all the regulations because that landscape is constantly changing.
Okay, so diversification, safe havens, the crypto roller coaster, we've covered a lot. But Texture Calais doesn't just stop there, right? They actually lay out some specific strategies for investing over the next, 5 years.
They do. And that's where it gets really practical, I think. It's one thing to understand trends, but then what do you actually do with that information, right?
Exactly. So lay it on us. What's the roadmap Texture Calais gives us? How do we navigate the next 5 years?
Well, not surprisingly, they see tech and AI as like the big growth areas. They recommend focusing on companies that are really developing AI, pushing those boundaries, not just using existing tools.
Makes sense. We talked earlier about how AI is changing things with trading, data analysis. Those are going to be huge for companies that get it right.
Right. And Texticale sees renewable energy as another major theme. With the whole global push for clean energy, those technologies getting more affordable, it's an area ripe for opportunity.
I gotta admit, this one's close to my heart. Always been passionate about sustainability, so it's cool to see Text to Calais saying it's not just ethical, it's smart investing too.
Yeah, and I think that's a key takeaway. They're not just saying invest in good things. They're arguing that these areas, this is where the big economic opportunities are going to be.
Okay, tech, AI, renewables. What else is on their list for the next 5 years?
Diversification. Still key. They suggest looking beyond the traditional stock and bond thing, exploring real estate, commodities, even things like art and collectibles.
Art and collectibles? Wow. They really want us to think outside the box.
They do. And they emphasize keeping a long-term vision, not getting spooked by every little market blip. If you focus on those underlying trends, make smart decisions, you can be successful even when things are changing fast.
It's a lot to absorb, but also it's kind of exciting. Texty Calais makes it feel like you can not just survive, but actually thrive in this new investment world.
I think that's a great way to put it.
So we've talked to safe havens, crypto, Texty Calais strategy for the next 5 years. But before we wrap up, there's one more thing I want to touch on. It's not just what to invest in. Texty Calais really dives into the how, too. They're big on this whole idea of always learning and adapting as an investor.
Yeah, they say that's like the most important skill to have, especially now. Being able to learn something, then unlearn it when it's outdated, then relearn the new thing. It's a constant process.
So basically, having a rigid, set-in-stone investment strategy, that's a recipe for disaster, huh? Gotta be flexible, willing to change with the times.
Exactly. They use this great analogy. It's like surfing. You can't just stand still on the board, right? Got to adjust your balance, your position, or you'll wipe out.
Love that. Okay, so how do we actually do this constant learning thing? Text to Calais, do they give us any practical tips?
They do. One of the big ones is they call it intellectual humility. Basically admitting you don't know everything, being open to new information, even if it kind of goes against what you thought you knew.
That can be tough, though, right? Especially with investing. Nobody likes admitting they made a bad call.
Oh, for sure. But Text to Calais says that willingness to learn from mistakes, that's essential if you want to succeed in the long run. Every investment, whether it works out or not, it's a chance to learn something.
That actually took some of the pressure off, huh? Even the best investors make mistakes.
Exactly. And another tip, don't just rely on the same old sources of information. Branch out, read different things, industry reports, even go to conferences. Get a wider perspective.
So be proactive, go beyond the headlines, form your own opinions based on, solid research.
Yeah. And this learning thing, it's not like a one-time deal, right? It's a commitment. Make time for it, just like you would for anything else that's important to you.
It's a journey and a destination.
Exactly. And that ties back to one of the core ideas in Texticole, this whole thing about understanding how everything's connected.
Right, like you talked about government policies, tech advancements, even global events. They all impact investing. It's not just about your little corner of the market.
Exactly. And Texticole challenges us to go even further, to think about how our investment decisions impact the bigger picture, like the social impact, environmental impact. Align your portfolio with your values.
It's like our investments have power, and we can use that power to not just build our own wealth, but make the world a better place too.
Exactly. That's a pretty good note to end on, I think.
I agree. Well, there you have it, folks. We dove deep into the world of investing today using Texte Colle as our guide. We looked at the big trends, actionable strategies, and the importance of always learning and adapting.
Hope you found it useful and something to think about.
Remember, as Texte Colle says, knowledge is power. The more informed you are, the better you'll be able to handle the ups and downs of investing and reach those financial goals.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep investing in yourself.
Until next time, happy investing.